I hit something driving home from work. It followed me home. I've replayed that half second more times than I can count, and I still can't tell you what was in the road. What I can tell you is that I hit it hard enough to crack my bumper, and when I got out to look, there was nothing there. Let me back up. I work second shift at a warehouse 40 minutes outside town. Route 9 runs home through state forest, 14 miles of pines, no streetlights, no houses. 6 years, 5 nights a week. I know that road the way you know your own house in the dark. The dead oak leaning over the southbound lane, the ranger station with its one orange light, and the deer crossing sign everyone ignores. For 6 years, Route 9 was the most boring, dependable stretch of my life. I had a habit out there I never thought about until later. Every mile or so, my eyes went to the rearview mirror. Never any traffic, just my tail lights staining the wet road red and the dark closing up behind me like water. Nothing ever followed me on Route 9. That night it was raining, the fine, steady kind that turns pavement to black glass. The wipers kept their slow heartbeat against the windshield, and the smell of wet pine came through the cracked window. That smell meant one thing to me, almost home. But the forest was too still. No deer eyes at the tree line, nothing crossing the shoulder. 14 miles and not one living thing. The woods didn't feel empty. They felt emptied. I came around the curve past the ranger station. The wiper swept the glass clear, and something was standing in my lane. Tall. That registered first. Tall in a way that was wrong for a road. Pale where the headlights caught it. And it didn't move. A deer bolts. A person freezes, throws an arm up. This just stood there, like the road belonged to it. Brakes, wheel, the tires losing the wet pavement. Then the impact. A full, sickening wud. The car shuddered. The side mirror snapped flat. Something rolled up over the corner of the hood. I felt it in my teeth. Weight, mass, a body. Before anything else, I looked in the rearview mirror. The road behind me was empty. Just my hazards blinking orange. I searched with a flashlight for half an hour. The road, the shoulder, 50 yards of ditch in both directions. No body, no blood, not even on my car. Just a dent, a crack, and a long wet smear across the hood. At the tree line, the pines stood dripping in ranks, holding their breath, and under the wet pine smell was something colder, like turned earth. I drove home checking that mirror every few seconds. Empty road, red taillights, the dark closing up. Somewhere past the dead oak, I tilted the mirror away, because I'd started to feel that the next time I looked, the road wasn't going to be empty. By morning, I'd talked myself down. Exhaustion, rain, wounded deer travel farther than you'd think. Then the small things started. The porch light off, not burned out, switched off. The back door opened 2 inches on a Sunday, letting in the cold, and I realized later the smell of wet pine, indoors, where it had no business being. My kitchen chairs pushed in flush against the table. I never pushed my chairs in. Nothing alone meant anything. You can't call the police and say my chairs are too tidy. But it kept coming, waking at 3 a.m. to a silence like a held breath. A pale vertical shape at the edge of the yard in the black mirror of the kitchen window, gone when I focused. Then one morning I got in my car and the rearview mirror was tilted again, not down at the road. Angled at the back seat, as if someone sitting behind the driver had adjusted it to watch my face. The car had been locked. The seat was empty. Then the footprints, bare, long, narrow toes too far apart, coming up the porch steps after a night of rain, crossing to the front door. They didn't go back down. 2 weeks ago, a little after 2 a.m., the floorboard outside my bedroom creaked. Once. Slowly. The way a board creaks when weight is lowered onto it with care. I lay facing the door, watching the dark line beneath it, and that line changed. Something stood there long enough for its shadow to settle, patient as furniture. Wet pine came under the door, rain on cold skin. Then a sound I'll hear for the rest of my life. A slow exhale against the wood. Not angry, almost satisfied. By morning, the floor outside my door was damp in the shape of two long, narrow feet, pointed toward my room. I still drive Route 9. There's no other way home. My eyes still do their old habit, up to the mirror every mile, always empty. But the mechanic fixing my bumper found something wedged behind the cracked plastic, and it sits in a jar on my counter now. A tooth. Too long to be a deer's. Too narrow to be human. Whatever I hit that night survived, followed me 14 miles without ever once appearing in that mirror, and has stood breathing outside my bedroom door. I saw someone at the telephone tower. I've driven past that tower hundreds of times. Only once was someone standing beneath it. I take the highway now. I want that on record before anything else. I add 20 minutes to my drive home every night because of one evening last October. I work second shift at a distribution warehouse outside of town, scanning pallets until 11. The forest road cuts my commute nearly in half, and I know every bend of it the way you know your own hallway in the dark. Pine pressing in on both sides, soft gravel shoulders, and about halfway home, in a dead patch of clearing, the old telephone tower. It's been abandoned as long as I've lived here. Rusted lattice steel, maybe 200 feet of it, with a chain link fence sagging around the base. The only thing that still works is the aviation light at the top, a red bulb that blinks slow and steady, all night, every night. I used to find it comforting, a little heartbeat above the trees. I never wondered who kept paying for it. I wish I'd wondered. That night it was raining, not a storm, that soft, patient rain that makes the wipers squeak. I came around the long curve before the clearing, and my headlights swept the base of the tower. Someone was standing there, inside the fence, directly beneath the tower, perfectly still. No car on the shoulder, no flashlight, no hood pulled up against the rain, just a figure, arms at their sides, head tilted back, looking up. I slowed without deciding to. My first thought was breakdown. Somebody walked to the clearing hunting for signal, but there was no car. My second thought I didn't let finish, so I settled on the third. Maybe someone needed help. My headlights went right across them. They didn't flinch, didn't turn, didn't lift a hand against the glare. I pulled onto the gravel 50 feet past and watched the mirror. The red light blinked. The figure stayed. Rain crawled down the back glass, and behind it the figure did not move. And I mean at all. Not the small, shifting a standing person does. Nothing. A person's shape like patience. I got out. I still don't know why. "Hey," I called. "You all right?" The rain answered. Nothing else did. I walked back along the shoulder, and this is the part that's hard to explain because nothing happened exactly. The forest just went quiet. Not silent, quiet. Like a room where everyone has stopped talking because of something you haven't seen yet. The rain kept falling, but I stopped hearing it land in the trees. My boots on the wet gravel sounded like they were coming from inside my own skull. I reached for my phone. No service. That had never once happened on that road. I stopped at the fence. The figure stood maybe 30 feet in, close enough to see the rain wasn't running off them right. It came down around them, the way it falls around a statue. Their face was tilted upward, mouth slightly open, eyes open too, not blinking, not staring at nothing, watching. And standing there with my hand on the cold chain link, I finally understood what had been wrong from the first second. They had never once been aware of me. Not the lights, not my voice, not my boots on the gravel. They weren't waiting under the tower, they were watching it, or something above it. That's when I noticed the light. The red aviation light, that slow heartbeat, was blinking differently. Quick, quick, then a pause, then one long-held glow, then dark. Dark longer than it should ever stay dark. Not broken. Answering. I looked up. I shouldn't have. I looked up. I won't tell you what I saw, because I can't. There was the tower, and the rain falling out of the black, and above the top of the tower the darkness was arranged. That's the only word I've found in 8 months of looking. The sky over the tower wasn't empty the way the rest of the sky was empty. Something up there was patient and vast, and it had been there long before I ever stopped my car. Maybe long before the tower. The figure's mouth was still open. Rain was falling into it. I understood then that they might have been standing there for a very long time. I walked back to my car. I didn't run. Running felt like it would mean something had noticed me. I drove home with the radio hissing on every station, volume all the way down, until I turned into my driveway and it simply stopped. That was 8 months ago. I wake at 3:17 now, every night. Sometimes there's static in the house, faint, like a radio playing in a room we don't have. And twice from the back porch, I've seen a red light blinking slow and steady over the tree line to the north. There is no tower to the north. I've checked the maps, twice, so I take the highway. But some nights, up on the overpass, I catch myself looking at the dark line of the forest, and I wonder if someone else is on that road right now, coming around the long curve, headlights finding a figure in the rain. The voice in the woods knew my name. I keep my windows closed now, even in summer. Not because of the cold, because of what sometimes drifts in through an open window, just after dark, soft as a neighbor calling you in for dinner. My name is Daniel. For 11 years I walked the large, hollow trail behind my grandmother's old house, 2 miles out to the creek crossing, 2 miles back, every evening, home before full dark. I knew that trail the way you know a person. The roots crossing the path like knuckles, the leaning birch at the half-mile mark, the moss-covered stone shaped like a sleeping dog where I rested my hand in passing, the clearing where the chickadees always gathered at dusk, and the blue trail markers nailed chest-high every few hundred feet. I never needed them. I just liked knowing somebody had thought about me being out there and left me a way home. The first time it happened was a Tuesday in late September. The light was going gold between the pines when someone said my name. Daniel. Calm, unhurried. From my left, beyond the trees. I turned. Trunks, shadow. A few leaves ticking down. Sound does strange things in the hollow. Everyone says so. I laughed at myself and kept walking. 9 minutes later it came again. Daniel. Closer. Level with me, pacing me, and it was my sister's voice. Rachel, who lives 400 miles away, who I'd spoken to that morning. I didn't panic. I ran the list instead. Another hiker, an echo off the ridge, my own tired head. A voice that sounds like your sister isn't your sister. I walked a quarter mile telling myself I'd heard nothing at all, and I almost believed it. What I couldn't explain was the quiet. It didn't fall. It drained. First the chickadees, their clearing full of gold light and empty branches, then the insect hum, then the wind. The leaves overhead just hung there, and the creek had gone silent, like someone had put a hand over its mouth. At the 1 mile bend I touched the sleeping dog stone and looked up at the old hemlock beside it. Its blue marker was gone, not weathered, not painted over. Gone, the bark smooth as if no nail had ever touched it. Very funny, I said out loud to nobody. You don't realize how much you rely on the world answering you until it doesn't. I turned back. Fast. Not running. Running would have meant admitting something. That's when the voices started taking turns. Pete, my old co-worker, dead 3 years, calling my name with half a laugh in it. My mother, gentle, the way she called me in when the street lights came on. My ex-wife, and God help me, I stopped when I heard her because she said my name the way she used to say it when she was sorry. None of them sounded wrong. That's what nobody understands. They sounded right, like people who loved me, standing 20 feet into the dark, waiting patiently for me to come see. Always just beyond the next trees, always just off the trail. Then I passed a marker facing the wrong way. Blue paint, bright as ever, nailed to the far side of its tree, pointing out into the deep woods, toward the voices. I kept my eyes on the dirt after that. My boot prints from the walkout were still there coming toward me, and I followed them like a rope in the dark. Left heel worn at the outside. the little nick in the right tread. Mine, proof I'd walked out here an ordinary man. Then I saw the prince had a companion. Beside mine, close as a friend walks beside you, a second line. Bare, narrow, too long, matching my stride, step for step, the whole way out. I had walked those 2 miles alone. I don't remember deciding to run. I remember the leaning birch flashing past, then, impossibly, flashing past again, as if the woods were reshuffling themselves, buying time. The light stayed that same dying gold no matter how long I ran. The sun snagged on the horizon, unable to finish setting. And my grandmother, 8 years in the ground, where said my name from the tree line so tenderly my legs almost turned on their own. Almost. I broke out into my backyard and the sun dropped like it had been let go. Full dark in a minute, the creek loud again, the crickets screaming. I never went back. I sold the house that spring, but it isn't finished with me. Sometimes in hard rain I hear my name from the far end of the parking garage. 2 months ago, at 3 a.m., I heard it in my father's voice, from inside my closet. And last month, on the phone with Rachel, the real Rachel, I made sure, I heard it underneath the line, saying my name half a second before she did. Last week it used a nickname, one only my grandmother ever called me, one I've never spoken aloud to another living person. It doesn't just know my name anymore. It knows the names underneath my name, the private ones, the ones you'd only follow into the dark. So no, I don't care whose voice it wears or how much I miss them. If I hear someone call my name from the woods, I'm not answering.